that your life has a purpose? Do you believe that you were born for something, a mission? There's going to be varying answers, and that's totally okay. It's a very hard question to answer, and this is something I'm definitely thinking about. I'm going to touch base on this question later on, but all I can share with you is that there's only one fact about my life that I know for certain. That technically, I'm not supposed to be here. I don't mean like here at MoMondays, at Donald's. I mean, I shouldn't exist. I'm supposed to be dead. Let me go into this a little further. It was a Friday when I was just born. I was only a few seconds young. My mother got to hold me for just a few moments before the doctors realized really quickly that there was something wrong with me. So they took me away from my mother and they began working on me. They told my parents they can go and rest for a little while. That night, the doctors went back to my parents and they said, there's something seriously wrong with your son. Because it turns out I was diagnosed with respiratory distress syndrome. What that is basically I couldn't breathe. My lungs couldn't function properly. And at the time, the hospitals weren't as technically advanced as they were right now, so there was hardly anything they could do. So they said to my parents, we're going to bring in a couple people from Sick Kids to come and take a look. So that night, a couple ladies from Sick Kids helicoptered over to the hospital, took a look, and they said, we got to take him back to Sick Kids. So they prepped me up, they gave me the wiring, they gave me the tubes, and then they handed me over to my mother, and I'll never forget what my mother told me about this. They handed me over to my mother just before I was going to be in the helicopter. Then they asked my dad, why don't you go and stand over beside my mother, and why don't we take a picture of the whole family? Of course, they knew exactly what they were really trying to do. They were trying to take a picture of me with my parents in case I didn't make it. So that night, I was helicoptered over to Sick Kids. The following day, this was Saturday, they prepped me, and they were going to give me a dosage of surfactant. This was going to help, this was attempting to try and get me to be able to breathe once again. So they tried it. By Tuesday, I had used up all my surfactant and I went completely downhill. My life was completely dependent on a machine at this point. They went up to my parents and they said, we're going to try this one last time. But just so you know that if this doesn't work, unfortunately, you're going to have to say goodbye to your son. So they gave me the second dosage of surfactant that Tuesday. The following day, my breathing got a little bit better. The day afterwards, I got a little bit better. By Saturday, I was completely independent for my breathing, and I got to come home. This was the Saturday, just 8 days after I was born. And the rest is history. Now, obviously, this was an experience that I had when I was a baby, so obviously I don't remember anything. But when you understand that, well, when I understood that I was literally that far away from almost non-existing, this changes your point of view on life. This changes how you think about things in your daily routine. So just before I finish my story, I would love to touch on just a few points that really changed my life. Can I go into this a little further? Awesome. Point number one, I found that everything that happens to you in life is meant to build you up, not tear you down. So what do I mean by this? I'm sure every single person in this room can all testify that we've all had at least one bad situation in our life, okay? Show of hands, how many of you have gone through one bad situation in your life? It's pretty universal. Now, I'm not going to go into sort of comparing like who had it bad and, you know, is this big, worse, whatever. I'm just going to put this all into one big category called a bad experience, because we've all had at least one bad experience in our life. Now, what do we do when we go through a bad experience? We usually complain, we usually rant, we get upset as if it's sort of attacking us, as if it's sort of bringing us down. We often say, I wish this never happened. Well, I've come to find out that, again, these experiences, they actually don't tear you down. They're here to build you up. It's like that one lyric goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or how we often talk about a pearl, how it goes through a very rough transformation before it turns into a beautiful, smooth pearl. Or how a diamond has to go through a long period of high intense pressure before it turns into a diamond. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we don't even think that sometimes the experiences that we go through are here to actually turn us into a better human being. We may not realize it in the moment, but sometimes it can be making us smarter, stronger, more courageous. Often it's where we find our real supportive friends. Now, I can't speak for all of you guys. I've often found for me, when I look back at some of the rough, bad experiences that I've been through, I actually find to be very grateful for them. Because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have gotten better. I wouldn't have been smarter. I wouldn't have matured. Point number 2 that I want to share with you is that everything that you need in order to have a happy and fulfilled life, you already have. See, I also find that it's quite easy to look at other people and sort of wish that you had what they had, right? Some of us tend to get jealousy, envy. The grass is always greener on the other side. Well, I've often found that you're not meant to have what other people have, only because they're meant to have their own life. I was meant to have my own life. I was created to have a specific life tailored towards me. So everything that I have, I already have. And the thing is, this is extremely controversial because we hear the complete opposite in the social media and news world nowadays, right? We often hear that because you either have a certain something or maybe you lack a certain something, that you'll never be happy, you'll never be successful, you'll never be fulfilled. I think that's a total lie, because I'm made exactly the way I'm supposed to be in order to have the life that I was meant to have, and I believe the same thing applies to all of you. The third thing that I want to share, the final thing I want to share with you, and this is touching on the question that I just asked you at the very beginning. Do you believe that your life has a purpose? Yes. I believe that too. Because you know what? You will never convince me, ever, that I went through what I went through out of sheer luck, out of coincidence, out of sheer happenstance. That I didn't just happen to have a life, I was given a life. I was given the life that I have right now. See, what I've also found is when you're given a life, what this means is you're given a huge abundance of time. Time is the most precious asset that I've also found. The title of my story was called You Only Live Once, which some of you might realize is actually pretty much, it was an expression used a lot, especially by millennials, as an excuse to go out and party and get wasted. I wanted to use this because I believe firmly that yes, you live once. What are you going to do with the life that you were given? Because remember, everything that you're going through is here to help you. Everything that you have in your life, your talents, your personality, your physique, your intelligence, your skills, we're all given to you to have an amazing, abundant life. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm asking you tonight when you go home is, I want to ask you, what are you going to do with the life that you have? Because remember, you were given time, and it was given to you. The life that I have was given to me. And there's amazing things that we can accomplish. Thanks very much, MoMondays. Have a great night.